Reform UK is standing by its Bexhill and Battle candidate Ian Gribben after it emerged that he'd once said Britain should have taken Hitler up on his offer of neutrality rather than fighting the Nazis in World War II. Gribben, who is standing for Nigel Farage's party in East Sussex, also praised Vladimir Putin and said women should be denied healthcare in the comments on the website Unheard from 2022. He has now apologised for the remarks. Let's speak to Ben Habib, Reform UK's deputy leader. Good morning to you, Ben.
Good morning.
If Ian Gribben has apologised for the remarks, does that mean he doesn't believe in what he wrote anymore?
Well, I haven't spoken to Ian Gribben, but those remarks have been looked into by Richard Tice and other members of the senior management, and they've come to the conclusion that they are not worthy of any further action. And Ian Gribben is standing. And one of the things I suppose should be obvious to anyone who's been in politics for more than 5 minutes is that whatever you say in politics, people are looking for that gotcha moment. And this is a gotcha moment that they think they've got Gribben on. What I haven't done, and I imagine most people haven't done, is go back and look at these comments in context and see, precisely what it is he meant. But just on that subject, for example, I don't know if you're aware, but St. Paul's Cathedral, no less, had Winston Churchill on their website down as a white supremacist until recently. And no one was up in arms about that. It seems that it's perfectly normal for certain parts of the media and other institutions to criticize our history vitriolically, but for someone from Reform UK to come out with something absolutely, on the face of it, controversial, and yet everyone pounces on that. Well, would you agree with me that Winston Churchill was not a white supremacist?
Well, I'm not here to express any opinion, but we are here to talk about.
It is extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I'm sure that people will argue that. I don't want to talk about St. Paul's Cathedral. I want to talk about the election. I want to talk about your candidates. I'm just going to. I can give as much context as I can. I'm just reading out. He posted, Britain would be in a far better state today had we taken Hitler up on his offer of neutrality. But oh no, Britain's warped mindset values weird notions of international morality rather than looking after its own people. Now, weird notions of international morality, what does that means? Opposing Hitler's views on Jewish people that ended up with millions of them being killed in gas chambers.
You'd have to ask Gribben precisely what he meant by that.
Well, you must have an opinion. You must have an opinion about what he might have meant about. I mean, you've probably read the piece.
I don't have an opinion about what he meant, but what I do have an opinion on is that we were absolutely right to go to war with Hitler. The settled opinion, by the way, in the 1930s was to sue for peace, but it was Winston Churchill, one of the greatest Britons that's ever lived, that called out Hitler very early on and wanted the United Kingdom to take action. And thank goodness for Winston Churchill back in the 1930s and 40s, even if St. Paul's Cathedral now is prepared to call him a white supremacist, as are so many other people in the United Kingdom, which is absolutely, in my view, utterly shameful.
Well, I don't think Ian Gribben's a fan of Winston Churchill, is he?
No, he doesn't seem to be, according to the comments made. But I think as you said, what I'd rather do is focus on what it is that Reform UK stands for, and not throw away comments made by Gribben in 2022.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, it wasn't 1992. It was 2022. I mean, are you saying that it should just be swept under the carpet, or it should be examined? It should be, he's apologised for it.
Look, this election was called at short notice. We fielded 611 candidates altogether, together with our allies in Northern Ireland. I think that brings it up to about 626 candidates, which is a tremendous effort for a small party. Rishi Sunak tried to wrong-foot us by calling the election early, and he failed. And there will be people in amongst everyone's candidate list, by the way, who said controversial things, but that doesn't mean
it's quite easy to find. I know, but isn't it quite easy to just to do a quick Google of their name and then things like this will come up? That doesn't take long, does it?
Well, you've got to search around, and I'm not going to comment on individual candidates, due diligence carried out on each candidate. That's something head office has done. And Gribben has apologized. And what I'd like to do is focus on the election and not comments about 1930s United Kingdom.
That were made in 2022. Just finally, your leader, Nigel Farage, has said that Rishi Sunak was not a patriotic leader because he left D-Day celebrations early. He doesn't understand our culture. Would you consider these comments from Ian Gribben to be unpatriotic? And does he understand our culture?
I can't comment, as I said, for Ian Gribben or indeed for Rishi Sunak.
But you're the deputy leader of Reform UK, and this is one of your candidates.
I've never met Gribben. Richard's looked into it, and Gribben has apologised, and we're standing, and he's standing. And the key thing for Reform UK now is to set out its policies and to fight this general election on policies and to chart a new path for the United Kingdom, taking it away from the existential threats created for it by 14 years of Conservative government, preceded by an equally awful Labour government.
I understand all that. I understand. I just want to ask you one more time, to ask you this question in two parts. Do you think that Rishi Sunak, because he left the D-Day celebrations early, do you think he's unpatriotic like Nigel Farage does?
Rishi Sunak leaving the D-Day celebrations early was incredibly silly, wasn't it?
But was it unpatriotic? I'm just interested.
For him to have come out 2 days before that with a national service policy,
yes,
and for him to be championing the interests of pensioners and so on. I mean, it was just deeply offensive to people who fought, obviously, in D-Day, but anyone else who's looking at the political landscape.
I understand that, but is he or is he not patriotic?
Well, again, that's a question you've got to put to Rishi Sunak.
Well, Nigel Farage says he's not, and I just want to know whether you think he is or not. I mean, you may think he is.
Well, I think on the judgment of leaving D-Day early, you can conclude that he clearly didn't take D-Day as seriously as certainly Nigel did. And it was a terrible look for the Prime Minister to do that.
So here's part two. Here's part two of the question then. If you're not really going to answer part one, part two is Ian Gribben patriotic? He says that we should have adopted, we should have been neutral on Hitler. Is he patriotic?
I don't think the two sit together. Whether or not he's patriotic sits quite apart from whatever his views of 1930s United Kingdom were. There are lots of people in this country, by the way, who are critical of the way the United Kingdom fought World War II. Lots, and increasingly so, because the institutions that now govern the United Kingdom are increasingly ashamed of what I think should be a very proud past for this country. But the detractors are everywhere, attacking our history, attacking people whom we once held.
Well, people like Ian Gribben,
regard.
Isn't he attacking our history?
Well, what I'm trying to say is that he should be no more in the frame than anyone else.
But you're standing by him.
He's standing, absolutely. He's apologised. We're moving on. We want to get past this gotcha media stuff and focus on our policies.
Okay, Ben Habib, thank you. That is Reform UK's deputy leader.
I can't bear woke Britain going after our proud history, is one argument. It's okay to say it's all right to be neutral towards Hitler, is another argument. It's very hard to run both of those arguments at the same time, but that's what Ben Habib just did. Some people have drawn the comparison. Simon says it's hilarious that the Reform chap thinks there'll be an acceptable context for the idea of surrendering to Hitler. Seems like the Reform candidate did something even worse than leaving D-Day ceremonies early. There is an obvious analogy there, which you drew. We have mentioned Bexhill and Battle. Here are the candidates that are standing. Abel Azad is independent. Christine Bayliss from Labour. Ian Gribben from Reform. Nigel Adam, Jacqueline, Independent Network. Becky Jones of the Lib Dems. Jonathan Christopher Kent, the Green Party. Julia Long, Party of Women. Kieran Mullen, the Conservatives. And Jeff Newnham, Independent. And Colin Martin Sullivan, UK Independence Party. You can see that list at whocanivotefor.co.uk.